Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining me here at You Monkey's Uncle. My name's Tony. For those of you that are new to the channel, I welcome you, and I hope what I discuss and what I bring to you here, you'll find of interest and have you returning to the channel. For those of you that are returning, I thank you for that. And I appreciate it very much. I hope that the content I continue to provide you will be thought-provoking and stimulating. For those of you, again, that are new to the channel, I would recommend that you go back and look at those other videos that I posted before, just to get caught up a little bit and to see where I want, and you have a better grasp of where I'm taking this discussion over the next who knows how long, how many videos. The more I delve into this, the more the plot thickens, and there's so much to say. And I'll tell you, the toughest thing in me putting together these videos is trying to find a way to keep them very compact and tight and not too long. I don't want to lose any of you by rambling on for too long. But I got to tell you, there's so much to say and so much I want to tell you. I got to try and figure out a way to bring you this information in little tidbits so that I can keep your attention and not bore you to death. So I appreciate your patience while we start to wade through these waters together. Now, those of you that have watched my previous videos, you've probably seen me throw some terms around like the new normal, surveillance state, great reset, cancel culture. Well, today I want to throw another term, or rather terms at you, which I'm going to discuss, but you're going to, that term is globalist and globalism, all right? Now, this is a very wide, encompassing theme, which I'm going to be discussing today. But this is where the master plan comes from, all right? There's a lot of things that I'm going to be discussing today. I'm just going to be touching on briefly, which we'll have to come back to and break down at a later date in separate videos for each thing that I'll be throwing at you today. But what I'm trying to paint for you today is a very big, broad picture, all right? So I'm hoping to do that in a very succinct way and in a way that doesn't take me too long to get it out there. So I talk about this master plan, this big plan. The thing that you have to wonder, anybody's got to wonder, is what is this plan? Who's initiating this plan? Who's behind this plan? Why? What's it all about? So let me start out, I guess, by saying that we can't stop what's coming. Okay. This plan, I really believe, is a massive, massive, well thought out plan. And it's not something that was just concocted last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. By no means. This has been years and years and years, if probably generations. I would bet my life on it. Generations in the making, okay? And it's being executed with military precision. Now, for a number of reasons, I think that there are certain things that are happening in the world and the economies today which were outside the control of the forces who want to implement this plan. And as a result, we see a lot of things happening very quickly, probably much quicker than the powers to be wanted it to happen, because what it does, it exposes certain things which they probably didn't want exposed too quickly. If you look back, what they like to do when they're trying to implement such a deceitful plan is to bring it to you in inches, desensitize you to it, so that you're almost expecting what's going to happen. It's no big surprise. There's going to be no uprising. They can just usher in what they want very, very slow. All right. But there's certain things that are going on in the world today that I don't think they even thought of or thought would happen this quickly. So certain things have had to be sped up, and it's caused people like myself and many others to start asking questions and start connecting certain dots, which we ourselves, me, myself, would have thought, wow, there's no way. It's got to be a coincidence, or there's no way something like this would ever happen. But as I said in one of my previous videos, when's a coincidence stop being a coincidence? You know, there's just too many things coming together too perfectly, too seamlessly right now to just fluff off as coincidence. So I guess the first thing to do is to look at a definition of globalism. And let me just pop up, I'm going to share the screen here for a second. And if we go to the Cambridge Dictionary states that someone who believes that economic and foreign policy should be planned in an international way rather than according to what is best for one particular country. So there's your definition of globalist, all right? Now, setting that aside, who are the globalists and what do they want? What is this big plan that I'm talking about, that I'm alluding to, you know? And more, you start to hear talk about globalists because, frankly, as I said, things have sped up. Their agenda has become more open than ever over the last 10 years, okay? You know, there was a time, a long time ago, when the idea of the existence of globalists was widely considered a conspiracy theory, all right? There was a time when organizations, for example, like the Bilderberg Group, did not officially exist, and the mainstream media would fluff off such talk about globalism or such groups, you know, as, well, they'd make light of it. It was almost like a joke. They'd fluff over it and they'd just move on, right? Doesn't happen anymore. There was a time when the agenda, for example, for one world economy and one world government was highly secretive and spoken in whispers in private corridors or in private period, and not in the mainstream, right? And anyone who tried to expose this type of thinking back then was called a tinfoil hat wearing lunatic. Now I resemble that remark because I'm talking about this globalism and these powers to be taking it even further, you know? So, you know, people like myself are, or they're attempted to be delegitimized, all right? But if you look back, the only time we ever saw things like this were in sci-fi movies, you know? It's like those we were being prepped, we were being desensitized for this time to be ushered in. So as far as I'm concerned, the argument today is not whether or not globalism exists. That argument is over. We know it exists. We know that there is a globalist agenda. You see it everywhere. You see it in the news, you see it in the media. As a matter of fact, anybody that is contra globalism, for example, nationalist, like a Donald Trump of the world, love him or hate him, make America great again was his motto. What happened to him? He was met with venom and hate, and he was shunned, and he's been shut out from everything. Twitter's cut him off, all social media's cut him off. He's the pariah as far as the mainstream goes today, all right? They've just, any talk of that is shut down. So, so the thing is now, I guess my thing is, I'm not saying globalism is a bad thing, right? But like anything else, the intentions behind it and the powers behind it ushering in this new norm are the concerning part and what we have to be aware of. And what gets my spidey senses up even more is the way it's ushered in. Uh, you know, it's almost a deceitful and deceptive way of maneuvering the public towards accepting this one world economy and eventually a one world government that is being spoken of so often today. So my way of thinking is that if you have to consistently lie or try to deceive people to convince them or trick them into accepting an ideology and to get them to support it, then there must be something wrong with that way of thinking or with that ideology. That's my issue. That's my pet peeve. I'm not saying that globalism is necessarily a bad thing or certain globalists are bad people. But what I am saying is I truly believe that the powers to be that are taking us through into this transition are. They do not have our best intentions in mind, okay? Now that we've got that set aside, how do we recognize the globalist or globalism? What are some of the key things that would help us figure out what's what? Well, the first thing that globalists and globalism entails is centralization. A globalist believes everything must be centralized, from finance to money, social access, social media, production, government. They argue that centralization makes the system more fair for everyone. Now, that alone, to me, has the taste of socialism and communism. And we know what's happened in those societies. Has history taught us anything, right? But so under the guise of trying to make everything more fair for everyone, as a sales pitch, I guess, as their sales pitch, in reality, what I believe is that they desire a system in which they have total control over every aspect of your life, okay? Globalists, more than anything, want to dominate and micromanage every detail of civilization and socially engineer humanity in the vision that they have, okay? They almost want to make themselves gods, like humanity should look like this because we have this grandiose vision, all right? So that's the first thing that globalists or globalism entails, is centralization. Now, part and parcel with that is the introduction of a one world currency system and a cashless society, all right? The two are intermarried, okay? As an extension of centralization, globalists want a single currency system for the world. Not only this, but they want it digitized and easy to track, meaning a cashless society in which every act of trade by every person can be watched and scrutinized. So they can reward you and they can penalize you. When something is centralized, that means somebody other than you, another person, a government, is in control of it. So they want to centralize that. So Tony, you've been a good boy. Here you go. We're going to put some digital dollars into your wallet. Oh, Tony, you've been a bad boy. We're taking this out, or we're freezing it, or you don't do it. You don't get your vaccine. Well, you're not going to have access to your digital dollars. All right. No more will you be able to go somewhere and pay for cash. They'll be able to know exactly how much you drink, where you go, how much you spend on cash, what you're buying, what you're selling, who you're interacting with, where you're hanging out. Your privacy is completely gone, which, by the way, don't get this confused with what's going on out there today with cryptocurrency and the blockchain technology, which is decentralized. Now, the good thing about that marketplace, decentralization of blockchain, is that no one source besides you controls access to that currency. So the only way anybody else could get control of that is if you gave it up or allow them to have it. Where centralized is different, okay? I hope you see that. And a decentralized system scares the heebie-jeebies out of these powers to be that want to control everything. And I'm going to be doing a whole different video on that. That is so important. Cryptocurrencies and blockchain and where they fit in society, and why what's going on today has been really sped up, like I said earlier, sped up, because a lot of the stuff that's going on in the crypto world right now is really throwing a wrench into the plans of these powers to be. Cryptocurrency and blockchain is going to be, it's going to be the biggest social order disruptor ever. And trust me, these people do not want to lose their place in the social order, in the pecking order. They want to stay here. They want to keep us here. All right. So cryptocurrency and blockchain technology can upset that in ways which you haven't even thought about that. And I can't wait to bring you that video. And if you're interested in seeing that video, just hit me up right in the comments and I'll try and move it along quicker ahead of other stuff or whatever. If that's something that really interests you today, let me know and I'll see what I can do about getting to work on that. So the other thing that the globalists are really keen on, and globalism really entrenches, is a one world government, okay? Globalists want to erase all national borders and sovereignty and create a single elite bureaucracy, a single state. So again, they're here at the top and they're all the minions, everybody else here beneath them, and they're easy to control. It's under one government, boom. They want to get rid of borders, and no more is that prevalent than right now with what's going on in the United States. Can you imagine the United States of America without borders? The chaos. Now, all of us, I believe all humans are inherently good, all right? We don't want, most of us don't wish harm on others. We want the best for everybody. We want to be able to help others if we can, okay? There's very few people that don't think that way, I believe, right? So, of course, we want to help refugees or people that want a better form of life. But you can't just eliminate borders and allow a free-for-all. Sit back and think about what would happen to your economy, to your schools, school systems, to your healthcare system, if you had an uncontrolled amount of people coming into your country, any country. Look what happened in Europe several years ago, and in Germany, even with crime rate alone, when they had the refugee crisis over there, they allowed everybody to just pour in from the Middle East that were having problems over there. They're just coming across the borders. Like I said, if we don't learn from history, we're bound to repeat those same mistakes and suffer those same things all over again. And you'll see where I'm going with that in a second. All right. So now this one world government, at first, the system would continue to give us all the illusion of public participation and democracy, just like we have it now. But don't be fooled. Just like what's happened now with the coronavirus, it wouldn't take long before people with power, especially corrupt people with power, use it against people. And look what they've done. They've turned your houses into jails. They lock you down. They tell you when you can move, you can't move. You go to school, you can't go to school. They've shut down total economies. Imagine if they had even more control. You know, what's that saying? Power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely, something like that. Anyways, another way you recognize globalism and globalists is through environmentalism. Globalists often use the word environmentalism and actually sustainability interchangeably. You know, if you want to sustain yourself, you have to have a great environment, basically. And environmentalism is the facade that they employ to guilt the population into supporting this global ideology that they're trying to thrust upon you. And you don't have to look any further than the so-called carbon pollution threat that's become the biggest talk over the last 10, 15 years. You got people like wackos like Andrea whatever, Cortez in the States, saying that we're all going to be wiped out in the next 10 years because of climate warming or environmental impact. Come on, give me a break. What science shows that? It's ridiculous, but there's people actually that listen to that and believe it without doing any homework. Which brings me to another point. Everything that I tell you, everything that I bring to your attention here, you can verify. Okay, I give you my opinion. When I give you my opinion, I'm telling you my opinion. When I'm telling you facts, they're facts. All right. If I'm going to talk about a certain club or a certain organization, you can rest assured it exists. And not only that, I urge you to go and verify what I tell you and see if I tell you the facts I give you are true or false, as you should be doing with any news media, which is what I do. You'd be surprised how often there will be some major world event happen, and I'll flip on Fox News and I'll hear their version, and then I'll flip over to CNN, still an American station, and because of their political bias or whatever, their version's a little bit different. And then I'll listen to Al Jazeera, same world event, and they have a completely different spin on things. And I'll put on the BBC or whatever else channel around the world, and you get a different spin. Somewhere in there lies the truth. It's up to you. I'm telling you, today's society with today's technology, it's up to you. You have the resources, but you got to dig to find the truth. All right, because we've gone from people giving you the news to people just giving you their opinion and presenting it as news, which is completely false. All right. So this so-called pollution threat, carbon pollution threat, as I've said, is probably the biggest scam in history. And it's a key component of this globalist agenda. All right. That's one of the ways you're going to recognize the globalists and globalism right away is the environment and this carbon pollution. And as even the Club of Rome, it's a globalist organization, and you can look it up. They've got their own, again, let me just share the screen here for a second. They've got their own, you can check out Wikipedia. They've got their own website, so you can do your own research on them. You can see who they are, who formed them, who's part of them, who the honorary members are. But one thing they're very clear about is that they are a globalist organization. Okay, this Club of Rome. Maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't. Do your research. But this Club of Rome is a sub-institution attached to the United Nations, believe it or not. Okay, and they actually have a book out there, and it's called The First Global Revolution. And I'm going to read to you right out of their book, okay, what they came up with as far as this environment and tricking the population or convincing the population of this threat in the environment. This is their words, not mine. In searching for a common enemy against whom we can unite, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like, would fit the bill. In their totality and their interactions, these phenomena do constitute a common threat, which must be confronted by everyone together. But in designating these dangers as the enemy, we fall into the trap, which we have already warned readers about, namely mistaking symptoms for causes. All these dangers are caused by human intervention in natural processes. And it is only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy then is humanity itself. So, in other words, by presenting human beings as a species as the great danger, that must change their ways, that means human beings must change their ways in order to save the earth. So they came up with this common theme to try and unite all human beings behind a certain cause. All right. Now, put this way then, carbon pollution is almost like a religion, all right? And carbon pollution then, if you don't live up to their ideology, their idea, and save the world, then carbon pollution is the new cardinal sin, okay? The new original sin. And everyone is a sinner, then you're a sinner. If you're not doing your part, you're a sinner. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all about being environmentally friendly and helping the environment. Absolutely, I am. But what I'm against is these powers to be, the Al Gores of the world, who've gotten rich from this, you know, preaching to us to do certain things when they themselves don't do it. All right. They're the ones who are leaving the biggest carbon footprints out there, flying around in their private jets. I'd have a lifetime of flying, and I could never leave a carbon footprint like they leave in their jets. Okay. Now, the elites, obviously, by their actions and not adhering to what they say, you know, what's good for thee is not good for me, obviously don't believe in this farce. And why would they? They're the ones that created this farce, right? And like I said, all you have to do is look around you. Look at the hypocrites, the John Kerrys of the world, the Al Gores of the world, the Barack Obamas of the world, building these big, beautiful homes on lakefront, which supposedly is gonna fall into the ocean because of bad environmental impact. Well, if that's the case, why would anybody build a home on the ocean? You know, so that's another way you recognize globalists, all right? So we've got environmentalism, we've got centralization, we've got a one world currency and a one world government. Now, this is where it starts to get really, really scary and should scare the bejeebies out of you, all right? The other thing that globalists and globalisms really adhere to is the idea of population control, all right? Now, in light of what's going on right now with this COVID-19 thing and this vaccine, which we'll talk about at a later date as well, and I'll bring you a ton of information on that. That's just, like I said, should scare the bejeebies out of you. Globalists come from an ideological background which worships eugenics, the belief that genetics must be controlled and regulated, and those people they deem to be undesirables must be sterilized and exterminated. Now, let's take a step back here because this is really important. Everything else I could have lived with, you know, centralization, if it's for the better good, yeah. One world currency system. I'm not too sure about the centralized part of it, but, you know, I'm sure we can manage as long as whatever. One world government, yeah. But even this environmental stuff, I could live with. I do my part. Everybody does their part. We all want a healthy green world, right? Sure. And those things are really out there. They're really loud, right? You hear about it all the time in the media. The one thing you don't hear about yet is population control, right? But let me walk you back into the past. Let's take a little history lesson and see why they're not promoting this yet. But I'm sure if you look deep enough, it's being hinted at and you're slowly being desensitized to this too, okay? You've already started to hear there's too many people on the earth, right? I'm sure the planet's overpopulated. You've started to hear stuff like that for a while now. But getting back to population control, the modern eugenics movement was launched by the Rockefeller Foundation in the early 1900s in America and was treated as a legitimate scientific endeavor for decades, okay? Eugenics was taught in schools and even celebrated at the World's Fair. Now, here's something interesting, which I didn't even know. I just found out doing the research for this video. Did you know that California, the state of California, adopted eugenics legislation, actually passed a law, all right, and forcefully sterilized tens of thousands of people and denied thousands of marriage certificates based on genetics? Did you know that? In the United States of America, the state of California, all right? Now, true story, Look it up. I'm telling you, I'm giving you facts. Look it up. It's available. That was in 1929. Okay. And during that period, California alone accounted for a third of all the cases of nationally of sterilized, of forced sterilizations. 1/3. Unbelievable. In the United States, in the state of California. Now, that was in 1929, right? Now, just think where this population control went, which nobody's talking about, but it's a big belief. Who's the Microsoft guy? Bill Gates. Bill Gates, you can look up stuff, and I'll be doing a whole thing on that too. Yes, I will. All right, it's coming. Bill Gates, a big believer of eugenics and population control. All right. Wait till you see the stuff I got on that. That's crazy. All right. So that system of eugenics, here's another piece of history in which connect the dots. All right. Was transferred to Germany in the 1930s, where it gained world renown for its inherent brutality. What do you think I'm talking about? World War II, the Jewish genocide. Is that crazy or what? Yeah. And you know what? After World War II, because of what happened and the bad press, the public developed such a distaste for the idea of eugenics and population control that it kind of got silenced, got put aside. But quietly now, under the guise of environmentalism, right, overpopulation, the agenda is making a comeback. We're starting to hear more about eugenics. Maybe you don't hear it on the news yet, or population control. You're not hearing it in the mainstream media, but trust me, start looking and you'll see it. You're being desensitized to it again. It's happening again. What did I say about history? If you don't learn from it, you're bound to repeat it. And this time you may be the victim. All right. So remember what I said about sometimes sticking your head out around the corner and making sure there's nothing coming at you? So think about that too, okay? So if eugenics becomes a mainstream thing, part of this agenda, part of this plan, which we're slowly going to be walked into, right? You got to ask the question, who gets to decide who lives and who dies? Like, is 70 too old now? Is 80 too old? You're too sick? Who gets to decide who's never born? How are they going to come to their decisions? You know, who's making these decisions? You know, there's no doubt, just like we're seeing with the coronavirus, they'll present it as, they'll present modern eugenics as follow the science type of thing. But look what they're doing. Look at the botchery. Look at the mess they're making out of the coronavirus. Follow the science. Geez, one day it's one mask, one day it's two masks. One day it's, Fauci said at the beginning, there was no need for masks. Then kids can't get it, kids can get it. Where's the science? The science is whoever's in control and wants to make it. That should scare the bejeebies out of you, all right? Because I can almost guarantee you, you and I are not going to be those people making the decisions. Not at this stage, right? All right, now the last thing, how do you recognize that was pretty out there, okay? That's still not in the mainstream, but trust me, it's coming, all right? But this is one of the ways you're gonna recognize the globalist, and Bill Gates is one of them, and he's probably been one of the more vocal ones. Now, something else you're not gonna hear about from globalists regarding globalism is the term Luciferianism, all right? And it's a religion, it's an occult religion. And this for sure is not something that's in the public eye or ready to come out into the public eye unless people like me discuss it or expose it to some degree, right? But this is very important because I truly believe that a lot of these people, these powers to be, the reason they think the way they do is they believe so deeply in this religion. And wait, this is a whole study, this is a whole video, maybe a series of videos exposing this belief system, all right? It's for the elites, all right? They really believe they come from a royal bloodline. They have a dynasty. They are above everybody else, right? It's a complicated issue, which is going to require, like I said, its own lengthy discussion. So I just want to throw that at you, but it's out there. And like I said, this agenda, this Luciferianism, wow, I'm having trouble with that word now, is not one that globalists are willing to admit to or openly talk about. But there's extensive information out there if somebody's willing to dig and expose it, which I have done and will bring to your attention. There is a globalist occult religion out there, which the elite believe they're part of, all right? And essentially, in a nutshell, it's an ideology which promotes moral relativism, the worship of the self, and the attainment of godhood by any means necessary. Remember what I said earlier? They want to shape mankind into their vision, okay? Man's been created. They can't take the credit for that, but they can take the credit for shaping mankind into the vision of humans and what they think humans and mankind should look like, all right? And that's what they want to take upon themselves. They believe that they are the ones chosen for this task, which puts them above the rest of us, makes them the elite. Now, as I said before, when does a coincidence stop being a coincidence, right? And this is again important. Last point I'm going to touch on this regarding Luciferianism, this occult religion, hidden occult religion. But did you know that it is the only ideological institution adopted by the United Nations through the UN's relationship with Lucis Trust, also originally called Lucifer Publishing Company, okay? Lucis Trust still has a private library within the UN building today. Did you know that? You can look it up. Don't take my word for it. Now, you need proof. You know, do you need proof that this has been ongoing? It's just not something that was thought out last year. When does a coincidence stop being a coincidence? Well, what better proof is there than right in your face, open, clear proof that there's a globalist agenda. And they've got it right out where you can see it. And people won't ask a question because it's been there forever, right? I'll tell you what I'm referring to. These are just one of the things I'm referring to. And I recently found out about these two, which is very, very interesting. But in Georgia, the state of Georgia in the United States, there's a set of stones called the Georgia Guidestones. Don't believe me? Again, hold on. Let me get you to screen share here. All right, let's see here. Somewhere in here. Georgia Guidestones. There's Wikipedia page on the Georgia Guidestones, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the Georgia Guidestones, and you can read it right here for yourself, are a granite monument erected in 1980 in Elbert County, Georgia, in the United States. A set of 10 guidelines is inscribed on the structure in 8 modern languages, and a shorter message is inscribed at the top of the structure in 4 ancient language scripts, okay? Now, this was no easy undertaking, right? The monument stands at an approximate elevation of 750 feet above sea level, about 90 miles east of Atlanta, 45 miles from Athens, Georgia, and 9 miles north of the center of the city of Alberton. One slab stands in the center with 4 arranged around it, and there's a capstone on top. You'd almost say that this is like an American Stonehenge. That's what they referred on here, right? But in June 1979, according to Wikipedia, a man using the pseudonym R.C. Christian approached the Alberton Granite Finishing Company on behalf of a small group of loyal Americans and commissioned the structure. Christian explained that the stones would function as a compass, a calendar, and clock, and should be capable of withstanding catastrophic events. Now, there's a lot of talk about who this R.C. Christian was. That was a pseudonym he used. To me, just the acronym RC, Roman Catholic Christian, seems a little fishy. I don't know, that's my opinion. Others have said that, other conspiracy theorists have said that the guide stones are, they're from a deep satanic origin. Some people said that R.C. Christian resembles Rose Cross Christian or Christian Rosencreutz, the founder of the Rosicrucian Order, a secret society. Okay, but nonetheless, regardless, on the stones, okay, there's a message consisting of a set of 10 guidelines or principles which are engraved in these guide stones. All right, and they're engraved in 8 different languages. And one language on each face of the 4 large upright stones. And the languages are English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, traditional Chinese, and Russian. Now, what are the inscriptions? I'm not going to go through all of them. You can look them up for yourself here. But how eerily coincidental, the very first inscription on there is maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Now, when we're talking about eugenics and we're talking about a population of the earth, which is 7.5 billion approximately, give or take, that means in order to get to 500 million, 7 billion have to be eliminated. Hello, all right. The second inscription, guide reproduction wisely, improve fitness and diversity. So if you're not in good shape, look out. Unite humanity with a new living language, rule passion. You can go through these yourselves, all right. I'm not going to take up your time, but the evidence is right in front of you of where globalists and globalism wants to take you. We've been down this road before. Let's not forget about what happened in Germany. Let's not forget about what happened in the Great Russian Revolution when Lenin, Trotsky, and Stalin, who were also globalists, murdered 68 million. You know, it's just too coincidental, all this stuff, right? So all that being said, who are the globalists? Well, Justin Trudeau, for example, in Canada, is a globalist, all right? His father, a previous Prime Minister of Canada, Pierre Elliott Trudeau, was a globalist. And look who some of his buddies were: Fidel Castro, Mao, China, you know. Bill Gates, who I mentioned previously, Pope Francis are globalists, you know. The Clintons, the Bushes, and many former US presidents were and are globalists, right? These globalists, they consider themselves superior and much more progressive than most of us, all right? And what a coincidence, especially you see it in politics in the United States. A lot of this movement, left-wing thinking, they're referring to now as progressive. If you don't think like they do, you're ancient. You're behind the times. This is the new norm. They're progressive. They're moving forward. This is where society is going. And if you're not with them, you're obviously against them, right? So the other scary thing about a lot of these globalists and these people is that they control most of the secret agencies around the world. Agencies like the United Nations, the CFR, the CIA, M16, FEMA, the Federal Reserve, the World Health Organization. We've seen what a schmozzle that is lately. The CDC with this thing, etc. You know, so our worst enemies, ladies and gentlemen, are not in caves in Afghan or Iraq or Iran or Syria. I'll tell you, they're on TV right now. Our worst enemies, the media, the people that control the media, and the people that control the politicians, these hidden faces, right? These are your enemies. They control not only the media, they control Hollywood. They're the ones who are putting out all these movies to desensitize you against everything, right? They control big pharma, food processing, social media, Google, Facebook. Like, look at how all these agencies and all these organizations are coming together to guide the conversation in where they want you, and not you, mankind, to go. Very important to keep that in mind as we move forward here. The other thing about these globalists, or these powers to be, and don't get me wrong, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier in my video, but I'll say it again. A lot of these faces that, and even these names that I mentioned, the Clintons, Justin Trudeau's, the Joe Bidens of the world, the Nancy Pelosi's, Al Gore's, they're just the faces. They're not the ones pulling the strings. They're just the puppets. I think I've said it before. It might have been on an earlier version, I don't know. But these people at the forefront are there because they're trying to maintain their place in the social order. They've been bought and paid for, all right? They've sold their souls. And they don't give a darn what happens to you, to me, all right? They're just concerned about maintaining their status quo, staying on top of the pile. That's their whole agenda here. They're not the real powers to be behind all of this. Those individuals we haven't exposed them yet, all right? It's coming, but they're not totally out of the dark yet. So I don't want to keep this going too long. Let's, I guess we can, well, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, but I think we can agree that globalism now is the norm. Globalism is the orthodoxy of our day. The leaders of virtually every Western nation are globalists, okay? It's the editorial position of every major newspaper and news agency out there, all right? Then the majority of CEOs are globalists. Well, I shouldn't say every, but most major universities are globalists, and they push globalist ideology. So there's a good reason for this. Why is it being so pushed by the powers to be? And this is going to take us full circle to pretty well where I started. Globalization, at the end of the day, is a great money-making machine for the globalist elite, okay? That's why during this pandemic, you saw them try and they're going to put a lot of mom and pop business and shops out of business, right? While the big conglomerates, the Amazons, the Walmarts of the world, just keep raking in the profits, okay? Obviously, coronavirus is that smart. COVID-19 is that smart. It knows to stay out of those places, right? But it knows to go into those little mom and pop shops. So, as I said, globalization is a great money-making machine. And the globalists, they own the companies that cheaply manufacture things in third world countries and sell them to consumers in the first world. So they want to keep this gravy train running, and they want to keep it running. And with technology and everything else, they don't even really need humans anymore. They don't need us anymore to keep it running. They can do with all the machines. You got cars will be able to drive themselves, trucks be able to drive themselves, You got robotics everywhere, right? So I guess it's fair to say that today the heresy is nationalism, as Trump was promoting, and thus the reason he was treated as he was. So, as I said, this is almost takes us full circle to where I started. Why is this agenda being implemented at such a pace all of a sudden? Why are they trying to thrust us into this globalism, one world currency, one world government, one world economy so quickly? And a lot of that has got to do with what's going on in the economic world, okay? I said before, cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is going to be the biggest social disruptor ever. A lot of these people that have their monies tied up in dollars and gold and the traditional assets are this close from virtually losing it all, losing their social status. Because let's face it, the way they're printing money today, it's out of control. It's going to be worthless, all right? And Bitcoin, which they try to bury and keep hidden and get rid of for the longest time, will have nothing of it. There's a whole new world order coming, which is could change the social status of these people and a regular guy like you and I, just like that, okay? And they know they're late to that stop. They're late to catch that train. So they're trying to play catch up now, all right? So we're gonna have a whole, like I said, a whole video. I'm gonna circle back and do a whole video on that and what that's all about and how it fits into things. But for now, we'll leave it at that. Yeah, so we'll leave it at that. I think that's a good place to stop this video today. So globalism, at the end of the day, is that these elites are seeing the power shifting perhaps from them to the class of people that they don't believe are the elites or from the royal bloodline, okay? And they're going to do everything in their power to keep you under and to stay on top of you. And globalism right now is one way to keep you where they want you, to keep you in your place, all right? So again, I thank you for tuning in. If there's any particular subject that you want me to discuss in more detail in future videos, please feel free to reach out to me, either post it in the comments or send an email to youmonkeysuncle@gmail.com. And I'll see if I can get to those as well. I have a whole agenda in place. A lot of the things that I've talked about here, for example, the cryptocurrencies and the social disruption and Bill Gates and these vaccines and COVID-19, those are all things for separate videos. And we're going to be coming, I'll be bringing those to you in a short order. And don't forget, my next one's going to be on social media and why I'm jumping off the YouTube bandwagon. And I hope you tune in for that. So again, thank you for joining me. I hope you got something out of what I had to say. I made a little bit of sense. I know it's a lot to throw at you sometimes. I have all these grand visions myself, you know, and I want to say so much, and it's so difficult putting it together in a nice, concise way where everybody can follow me and I can keep your attention. So thank you very much again for your time, and I look forward to speaking with all of you again soon. Have a great day, and don't forget, before you jump out, just take a look around the corner. Let what I've said sink in, and at least be aware of what might be coming down the pipe. All the best to all of you. Take care.